Hello again traders, and a very warm welcome to our video here on trading time zones. My name is Rishi Patel, co-founder, Master of the Markets, Break the Link, and the Elite Traders Conference and the Traders Open Day. And I would like to walk you through what could be, for some of you, a familiar concept, for some of you something that's quite new. So as we're trading foreign exchange, our primary thing is foreign exchange, although we do trade indices and some commodities as well. If you're trading foreign exchange, this is a very important concept for you to understand in some level of depth. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to start off just by covering some of the basics. And then I'm going to tell you one bit of information that's very important that you have to know. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what the peak times are, because if you're trading during the day, especially if you're day trading, this is critical for you to know. Now, if you're end of day trading, not so much is it important for you to have a very strong understanding of this, but have a concept or just have an understanding of what's going on in terms of different times of the day where you see, generally speaking, the market making the most moves. Once I've done that, I'm actually then going to tell you when the largest hourly ranges actually take place in the foreign exchange market. This is quite an interesting thing to know and incorporate into if you're day trading. It could be something that's pretty important for you to know. So have a look. Let's talk about the basics. So the market opens by starting in the Asian session. So the Asian session actually kicks off at around 12 midnight our time. So when I say our time, we're British Standard Time, but let's talk GMT so that it is all universal. So 12 midnight, Asian market kicks off and it starts trading. Now, from the Asian market, you then get to the London market. Now, the Asian market will kick off at 12 midnight. It will generally tend to tie itself down or stop at around 8 a.m. Generally speaking, it's actually technically by the book 6 a.m., but actually there'll be a handover between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. actually London time. Then finally, once London actually starts its movement off at 8 a.m., the London stock market opens. As you know, we get some movement coming into the market then you also get the New York session kicking in, so New York. Now, this is the order in which this happens. Then New York will close at 10 p.m. and then there'll be a 2-hour gap between 10 p.m. and 12 midnight, and then the Asian market will kick off once again. Now, if you've ever watched the price in between 10 p.m. and 12 midnight, you may have noticed that the hourly bars or the 5-minute bars or whatever it is you've looked at generally tend to get very, very quiet. That's because none of these sessions are open during that time. So you need to be very aware of that, especially if you're day trading the market. It's very important for you to understand and have a strong understanding of this types of concepts, because of course if you have day trades running and they're going beyond the New York session into the later part of the hours, there's a very low chance you're going to see any kind of volume or movement after that time at New York. So it's very important. What's the very important point? Check your broker, because different brokers have different closing times of the bars. Now, if you're trading with a broker that is not necessarily UK based and the servers aren't in the UK, let's say the servers are abroad in another country, in Europe for example, then there may be +1 or 2 hours of GMT. What does that mean? It means that their bars will actually not close anymore at midnight GMT, but they'll actually close at, let's say, 2 hours earlier. They'll close at 10 p.m. So I've seen brokers that have closed at 10 p.m. I've seen brokers that close the day at 11 p.m. And there are some brokers that, of course, were UK based, they're based here, and they'll close the market at 12 midnight exactly, and then they'll kick off the next day's trading. So depending on what you've done your strategies backtesting on, if you've backtested a strategy, if you haven't backtested a strategy, if you're just trading, day trading, just have an understanding of when you intend to close the market. Don't necessarily do it according to the daily bar, because the daily bar may not necessarily be closing at 12 midnight. So just do be aware of that. Different brokers have different close times, and this is something that's important to understand, especially if you are working as part of a team. For example, the Vedanta Elite team do a lot of research in and around the market, and they do find different things, and this is how we actually found out that there are certain brokers that we can and can't use to do testing on for ourselves. So the next thing I want to talk to you about really are peak times. So what are the peak times? First of all of the times I'm going to give you here, as I've already said, are going to be GMT. So these times are all GMT. And what we generally tend to see, and I already mentioned this actually a little earlier, so is a handover. A handover takes place between Asia and London between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. So between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. we see a handover taking place in between Asia and London. And generally during this time on the hourly charts, on the 5-minute charts between this time, you're going to see quite a bit of movement. So there's generally quite a bit of movement at that time. That's a good time to trade GMT. Then of course, New York session kicks in at 12 noon. So there is obviously a handover time, not a handover time, sorry, I shouldn't say that. There is a period of overlap, that's a better word. There's a period of overlap in between the London session and the New York session. So you can see that actually the London session will only start to become quiet, let's say after around 4 p.m. That's when the UK stock market closes. That's when, generally speaking, London volume will die down. But in between 12 noon and 4 p.m., obviously, there is a 12 noon to 4 p.m. There is a period of time where there's an overlap. So they call this overlap NY, so New York, London, the nylon period. So if you've ever come across that as a concept, then that's what that is all about. So the nylon period is that time where New York and London are trading at the same time. And generally speaking, there tends to be quite a bit of volume in between those times. And we know that that's true because when we actually measure the market and look at the Forex major pairs such as euro dollar, pound dollar, and dollar against Swiss franc. And when we take their hourly bars and we actually look at them on a spreadsheet and we ask the question, what's the distance from the high to the low? Let me show you a graphical example. So let's say you took all of the hourly bars, and let's say these were some hourly, and then you had some hourly bars that look like this. So then we took the question and asked, what is it actually that generally, which time of the day have the largest ranges of these bars? Because of course, for us as traders, if there's range, if there's that volatility, if there's been that movement, that's an opportunity for us to be able to make a return or make some money trading that distance. So that's what we're looking to do. So very much want to just make that clear that we actually measured the market and looked at the actual Forex bars and what was the conclusion in terms of the largest hourly ranges. I'll tell you here. So between 12 noon and, interestingly, 4 p.m., you saw the largest hourly ranges actually taking place on the market. And that is something that I wanted to get across as well in this, because of course, if you're day trading and you want to capitalize on the largest moves, this is generally around the time you're going to see that happen. So if you've already entered the market much earlier, as we do with some of the elite strategies we trade, much earlier in the morning, if we've got in around 8 a.m., then we'll be looking to hit targets more than likely, if they haven't already done so in the London session, around these times in the nylon period, that overlap period where you get the largest hourly ranges. So that's it from me on trading time zones for this video. Until the next time, as we always say, stay disciplined, follow your plan, and trade like a master. Bye for now.